Okay, everyone, Baruch Hashem. Hope everyone had a great Kabbalah Satira. We should continue to Zaycha to learn HaKadosh Baruch Hu's word and grow together. Says the Mishnah on Kuf Hey Amid Beis, Kuf Hey Amid Beis. And we're in the sugya of Kablonis and Arisus, whether Chakiris means it's a set amount, or whether it's Arisus, which is the percentage of the crop. So Makabel Sada Mechaberoi. So you made a din makabel, and Rashi tells us we're dealing with a case of chachirus, a set amount. The achlu chagov and the locust ate the crop, a nishtafa, or it went ahead and it blighted, the wind ruined it. Imakas medinahi, if it's a universal problem, imakas medina, in other words, not limited to your field, but it's extended, and we'll see to exactly how much. Then menakaloy min chakura, you can go ahead and deduct from the amount you made up. Im einay makas medina, how conversely, if it's not a makas medina, it's only yours, ein menakaloy min chakura. So if it's universal, then you can go ahead and deduct from the deal, and if not, not. Rabbi Yehuda has a different. In other words, you're going to give him money. You're working his field, and instead of a crop, you're going to give him money. Because again, has nothing. If you're going to give him money, the crop that you can pay with has nothing to do with the money. You know, the money's not. The locusts aren't eating the money, and the wind doesn't affect the money. So therefore, that's Rabbi Yehuda Shita. We're going to see the Gemara. We don't pass him like Rabbi Yehuda. Now, exactly, Hechi Dami Makkah Medina. The Gemara asked to qualify what exactly is Makkah's Medina. So I'm Rabbi Yehuda Kigoin, the Ishtuf Ruba de Baga. Now you're in a valley, and you have a multiple amount of fields. You have in your fields there, and the majority of the fields in the valley they suffer the same plight as you do, with the locust attacking and or being the wind blasting your crop. So in that case, that would be Roiv, and that would be considered Makas Medina, where you would be able to deduct from the amount you're supposed to give the balabas. Ula says Kigoin Shenishtatfu Arba Sadois Me Abba Rucheseha. That the four, it could be the valley is great, Nebuch, but your field is shot, and the four fields around you are shot. They also, in other words, that's Makas Medina. Again, doesn't based upon majority, based upon proximity. Like your field is suffering, and the fields around them are suffering as well. That would be Makas Medina. Now, based upon that, we have a few questions. Based upon that, we have a few questions about Ula's Pshat. So Amma Ula, boy b'marava, they asked the following question. Nishtaf klem echad al pnei kuloi mai. Let's say the fields around you, only one row was gone, but your field was totally gone. So your field's gone, and the fields around you, with only one row was gone. What would the shaila be? Let's see Rashi. Says Rashi, Nishtaf klem echad v'lo yoysa misada shelahem saviv oseha. And there's not more, the fields around you were destroyed except one furrow. But also tlem kol saviv osadazu. And that's the tlem around it. So in other words, in order to be Makas Medina, do you need the whole fields around you to be besides yours, or even part of the field around you, even as minuscule amount as a row around? That's the first shaila. The second shaila, nishtayet tlem echad al pnei kule mahu. Now, let's say the whole field was shot. But it remained one line. Let's see Rashi. Nishtayet tlem echad kol svivasecha, all around you. Shlei nishtaf v'arba sadish v'yaseh nishtafu v'gamzu nishtafa. In other words, everything yours was shot totally. Theirs was shot totally, with the exception of you have a live tlem around your field. Mi amina the kivan in nishtayet tlem echad, since one was left over. Al pnei kulei shlei laksa, that wasn't destroyed. Ein zu makas medina el mazlei. What's mazel? I dilma hay shiur lav klum. You know, how do you view it? Do you view that as a sign that it's your beard mazel, or do you view it what? No. So the Gemara wants now a few other shilas. Another shaila is if siku beira mahu, if around the four fields there were fields that were left fallow, they were empty. And those 4 fields, other ones were destroyed. So picture this: you have destroyed, 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 fallow, 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 and yours in the middle destroyed. Do we view it as a Makas Medina, or do we view the fallow fields in the middle? No, it's maybe if maybe if they would have planted fellas, they also would have been destroyed, and therefore it would be Makas Medina. It would be the 4 fields in proximity to you, or no? Do we say that? Or no? We say not, and therefore maybe it's not a Makas Medina. Aspasta, the 4 fields around the fields. You had the 4 fields around you were destroyed, and then you had fields of aspasta, which is fodder for animals, and then your field that was destroyed. Is aspasta considered a barrier? What's the din? Zora echad what happens if it's a different type of crop? Yours is one, and there was another. Chiti l'gaybe soira, kizera achadam yaloi. How do you view chita soirim? So another question. Kol olam kulam b'shidafain. All the area that was destroyed either b'shidafain, which is by the wind, b'shaloi b'yarakain, and yours was had things. Yarakain is lashon some type of disease that caused it to go yellow. Hinami kol olam kula b'yarakain u'shaloi b'shidafain. There's all these cases where, again, classic Makas Medina according to Ula, yours is destroyed, theirs is destroyed around it, Makas Medina. Now we're asking a multitude of questions. How exact does it have to be? Does it have to be exactly the same? What about would one phlegm be? What would the separation be? What would a different disease be? And the Gemara answers, take up. We have to wait for Elio to come answer these questions. So Amalei Lezareha, Chita. The owner of the field, he tells the chayker, he tells the plant wheat. For Azalhu, Uzra Sare, and what does he do? He goes and plants barley. Vishtadlef Ruba Debaka. Most of the valley is destroyed, so we have a Makas Medina going on now. Nami Hanach Sari delay. And along with most of the valley that was blasted by the wind, this also gets blasted by a wind. So L'chairi should say it's a Makas Medina, and he can go ahead and make a deduction. But one second. Mi amin on the Amalei that the Chayker can tell the Machkir, Ilu Zarata Chita, Havinami Mishtatva. It's irrelevant what I planted. I was supposed to plant wheat. I planted barley. But if I would have planted wheat, since you see everyone else was blasted, yours also would have been. By Dilma, Matziamale, the Machkir, the owner of the land, could say to the Chayker, Ilu Zarata Chita, if you would have planted wheat, having Mekayim be, the pasuk would have been fulfilled at me. What does the pasuk say? V'sigzar oimer v'yokam lach. You'll have a plan, and you'll have slacha. So, in other words, it seems to be that the pasuk says that what? I don't know exactly, how this pasuk goes in. In other words, it seems to be that he would daven for it, right? Rashi says he would daven for it. So he's davening for wheat, and you planted barley. So had you gone ahead and planted wheat, maybe tefillah would have helped. Guys, you hear? Rashi says he would have planted wheat, the tefillah would have helped. Rashi says, Mashim is to b'shvakes min hayoytze, but you make a request from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yaseh. My request only was what with chitin, not soirin. So can he tie that? Says the Gemara, he could say to him, he's the rati chita. If you would have planted wheat, have you mekayim be, it would have been successful. But or in other words, you cannot go ahead and be menaka, even though the whole valley is shot. You would not be able to go ahead and deduct, and you'd have to go ahead and give the owner everything. Let's say the person, the balabas who gave him this particular field, he had other fields, and his other fields were shot. The wind got him. But the rest of the valley not. So if you go after the rest of the valley, guys, it's not Makas Medina. It's not Makas Medina. Everything's to be okay. But this guy, he never everything he has a shot. Mi aminon. Since most of the valley wasn't blasted by the wind, the owner of the chayker, right? He can't go ahead and be menaka. Listen, you can only be menaka deduction with this makas medina. Going after the formula, the value is intact. So therefore, it's not makas medina. Therefore, I have to give you what we settled upon. By Dilmer, perhaps, even the shtatif kula arose, since the machkir, you see that what all this land was gestrafen, Metzia is able to tell him, "Hai mishum latach diduhu," right? It's your bad luck. The mishtatu kosa the seha. So guys, hear this shaila. If you look at the Hamoinam, it's not Makas Medina. If you look at the individual, it's Makas Medina because his fields are shot. Can the chayker tell him, listen, I can make it. I can make a deduction. Why? Because you see that your muscle is really bad, because all your fields are shot. Or the machgir, the owner, the guy who owns the land, can tell him, listen, what are you talking about? Forget about me. Take a look at everybody else. So what's the shaila? And the Gemara gives the teretz. Mistaber damalei, imi shumlata didi. If it was my bad luck, have you mishtartili purta? Something would have been left for me. Kidichsiv, kinish arnu me'at meharbe. We're left from a lot. We're left a little. So l'chayra, he can say that if he wouldn't have been left with anything, but now he's left with something. He's left with what? You have to pay him. In other words, his master was totally shot. You don't have to pay him anything. The fact that you have to pay him shows that what is not totally shot. Now the Gemara says, "Nishtatu kol sedoisav shel chayker." Now you know whose fields are shot? Not the guy who owns the land, but the guy who's working the land. So he's working for one guy, and he has his own fields. All his fields are shot. The baga, and also most of the valley is shot. So in other words, if you go after most of the valley, it's Makas Medina. The shtatif nami badayo. My mi amrinon. Even the shtatif ruba de baga. Can he say that since most of the valley is shot, menakale, he can gets a deduction. He can deduct. Idilma, even the shtatif kule arase, since all his fields are shot, along what Matziyamale mishum latach didachu. It's your bad luck. The mishtatu kol sodesecha. Since all your fields, in other words, Ruthie, I don't have to pick up my mother, do I? In other words, like this, guys. You have the whole valley shot. The chayker, the guy who's working the field, all his fields are shot. And now my field got shot. Is it because of, is it Makas Medina? Is it Makas Medina? And therefore he can deduct it. Or I could say my field shot because of you. You know, obviously you have no mazel. Everything is gone. Everything is gone, right? Again, there's two tzadim over here. Do we make a deduction? Don't we make a deduction? If we go after Roiv of the Medina, then he can't make a deduction. Right? Again, if it's Makas Medina, then he could, if it's Makas Medina, he could make a deduction, right? He wants to tie into the following. The worker wants to tie in it's Makas Medina, and I can make a deduction. The owner of the land who owns this particular land that he's working on, tying is the following. True, this is my land. True, there's a Makas Medina, but I'm looking at you. You have no mazel. All your lands are shot. Even if they're not in this valley, all your lands are shot. So you know why my land is shot? Not because of the Makas Medina, because of you. If it's because of you, then you can't make a deduction. Good? That's the shiloh over here. So what does the Gemara answer? And for the Gemara, Mistabra, the Amalei Mishum Latachu, it can say that what? That it's your bad mazel. You can say it's your bad mazel, right? Now the question is, what's the difference between when it's him, the landowner, and he could say, "Listen, you owe me." The answer is, guys, the Tosfos points out, guys, there's a difference between when the landowner's land's shot, he still has mazel. That's his mazel. You owe me money. When the Chayka's land is shot, all his lands are shot. He has nothing, and therefore he can't. Therefore, Mistama, he would have to pay everything. He has no deduction. Says the Gemara, "V'amai hachanami nemalei imisham lata didihu." Right, Havi Mishaili Porta. The same thing by you. That can be the pasuk in the Sharnu Ma'at Meharbe. We're left with a little bit. So in other words, the same waiver we gave to the landowner, let's give to the chayker. Because the owner of the land could say to him, if you would have something left over, it would be left over in your property. And it wasn't. By me, I have left over, you owe me, but you have nothing left over. Memela, that's the difference between the two of them. Mesave. Okay, we're asking a question on the mission about what exactly is Makas Medina. You say Makas Medina is the valley, is River Valley, according to Ula, 4 surrounding fields. Mesave. The halacha is, fellas, if you sell a field, you stay achuza, you have to let it be in the person's hands for 2 years. If you stay achuza, you have to let it be in the person's field for 2 years. Okay. So now, Mesave. The guy bought it. And that year it got blasted by the wind and had that disease, that yellow disease. Shvius, one of the years was the Shemitah year. Or the years that he bought it, like the years of Eliyahu when there was no rain. Ain't an oilim and a minion, they don't count. In other words, he'd be able to keep in his possession whatever that year is, you give him another year. You give him another year. Now, Kitani Shitafan B'Yirakoin, you learned that the wind or the disease. You compare it to the years of Eliyahu. There wasn't any tfuah at all because there was no rain at all. It was universal, not just this valley. So too over here, it must be by when you had Shidafain and Yirakoin, which is the Makas Medina we're under discussion, where there's none at all. But as long as there is tfuah in some places, even though it's not this valley, the year counts towards him. Makas Medinahi, and we don't say it's the Makas Medina. So the question is, when it comes to sale of steachuza, when it's shot and there's nothing at all, that's when what? That's when it doesn't count. But if it's anywhere else, it does count. Mashenkin over here, you're saying no. In this valley, that's enough to be Makas Medina. L'chayr Makas Medina is where there's no tfu available. Not just in this, not available in this valley. So Amrav Nachma Yitzchak Shiny Hasam. It's different in the case of Steachuza. Why? The Amakra, because the pasuk says the Mispa Shnei Tvuos Yimachalach. The number of the years of the crop it should be sold to you. Shana, and when it says Mispa Tvuos, Shanim Sheyesh Behen Tvuos Ba'olam. It's got to be Tvu in the world. So the Gezeres HaKosev tells me by Steachuza it has to have in the world. Masha'en came when it comes to chakiras, it's enough, again, that the valley be shot and it's available in other places. Amal Ravashi, Rav Kahana, Ravashi said to Rav Kahana, El Miyata, according to you, right, that you eat years of Makas Medina, they count, Shvius Talaloi Min HaMinyan. Shvius should be from the minyan, the Ikatvur B'chutz La'aretz. In other words, why does Shemitah not count? Because l'chayra you can't use the produce. You can eat it, but with its limitations. So l'chayra, according to you, that it's available in other places, it should count. So why, when we say the 2-year sale, we don't count Shemitah, and the 2-year sale we don't count Shemitah? Why not? You should count it since you can get tfuah from other places. Amalei, Rav Kahana told Rav Ashi, Shvius is avkata demalkei. Shvius is what? Is HaKadosh Baruch Hu going ahead and saying it's paka. It's lo ba b'cheshbon. It's not in the cheshbon at all. It's a Gezeres HaKosev. It's not in the cheshbon. Okay, now if you tell me it's a Gezeres HaKosev, not in the cheshbon, then we have to go ahead and apply it to a different halacha. Okay, fellas, when you go ahead and your magdish land, there's a certain amount. We have a formula. No matter what the land is worth, we go ahead and on the rate of 50 shkalim, 50 50 shekel, 50 shekalim per base core. But that's only for 50 years, 49 years. Every year you make a deduction. So what you have to do is you have to go ahead and say, what is this amount worth? So if you go ahead and you divide 49 into 50, you end up with one selah and one pudyin. Every year is considered, in other words, 49 times 1, and 1 is going to give you 50. It's going to give you close enough. So let's say it's year 16 left, so you'd only have to be paida based upon 16 selah and 60 punyanim. If there's 49 years left, then it's 49 and 49. Okay, and so it's relative to that. So if you're telling me that Hakadosh Baruch Hu takes Shemitah out of the cheshbon, so in a 49-year period, you can have 7 Shemitahs, you should deduct 7 Salayim and 7 Pudyanim. They shouldn't count the cheshbon, right? Yet they do, says the Gemara. So Amalei Elamiata, Amalei Masuch Breder Marla Ravina Elamiata, Shvius Le Salalei Min Hagerua. Shemitah should not count to making deductions for the amount that the person who is Makdish his Steachuza has to pay Hegdish. You should go ahead and make that deduction, take it off the map. Says Gemara, Alamatran, nice and selu pudyin l'shana. You have to give a selu and pudyin for the year. So why by mechira does it count, and why by mechira it doesn't count, and why over here by hegdish it does count when it comes to going ahead and be paid the hegdish? Shamalei Ravina said, shiny chasam. It's different when you paida the chazir lemishtecha b'peri. Even though you can't plant it, but you can use it. What can you use it for? To spread Paris. So since you can spread Paris, it's usable. Since it's usable, it's bought in the deduction for the year. Mashen came by Machira. Since HaKadosh Baruch Hu took it off the map, he took it off the map. Amashmol. Lo shanu ela shezora v'tzamcha. Okay, this din in our Mishnah that said that he has to go ahead and make a deduction, and then there was a Makas Medina. That's only if he planted and then it grew. And then the locusts got it. Let's say he didn't plant it all, and then there's a Makas Medina loy, then there's no deduction. In other words, you can't taina, had I planted, it would be shot anyway, right? No. The Amalei, because the owner of the land can say, Ilu Zarata, had you planted, having Mekayim be, it would be fulfilled in me, Layevoshu Be'es Ra, you won't be shamed in the time of Ra, will be Meira Ava, in the times of hunger, use bow, you'll be satisfied. In other words, and that's what happened to me. And that's what happened to me. My field would have been saved. Now the Gemara questions, can a nest happen to you? Says the Gemara. Must have Shesha. So you're telling me that Shmuel says you can taina that if you had you planted and everyone's was shot, yours would be good because the nest is going to happen to you. I'm going to question that. Must have Shesha. A shepherd who was shepherding. He left the slack, came to the city. Came along a wolf and chapped Vidaris or a lion. So we don't say if he's been there, he'd be able to kill it. I say we evaluate him. If he could have been chayiv, if no lav pata in his pata. Why should it be pata? Says the Gemara, name let the owner say, the owner of the sheep say, Ihavi Hasam, Havi Mekayim be Games Ariv, Games Sadoiv, Hika Avdecha, very appropriate. David HaMelech and Shmuel, when he's convincing Shaul to go ahead and let him kill Goliath, he speaks about when the lions and the bears came to eat his sheep, and he went ahead and a nest happened and he saved it. So maybe what if you would have been there, a nest would have happened. So you're telling me that what a nest would have happened and your crop would have been saved. So tear over there in that case, you should be able to say what you would have been, and therefore you should be chayiv. Because we tell the shepherd, right? The shepherd tells the owner, if you deserve to have a nest, the maisi easy dube b'karnayu. There's a famous maisa in Tainus that the people accused of Chanina of letting his goats going ahead and grazing in other people's field. So Rabbi Chanina said, listen, if they grazed in other people's field, let the bears eat them up. And if they didn't graze in other people's field, let the goats come and bring in the bears. The goats showed up with dead bears on their horns. So therefore he wants to tie the same thing over here. Same thing over here. It says, if you were roy for a nest, the roy could tell the the owner, if you were right for a nest, you wouldn't need me there. The animals would have taken care of themselves. So so therefore, it's not a taina. Maybe such a nest of the animals protecting themselves, the sheep beating up the goats, the goats and the sheep beating up the bears and the lions, right? That's not going to happen. But Lanisa Zuta, maybe a smaller nest would happen. Like maybe you yourself wouldn't be able to save it. So Gemara says in that kasha. Gemara says that's a kasha. And therefore, it's according to Taisus Rush, it kind of upslugs Shmuel, who wanted a taina that had you planted, a nest could happen to you. In other words, the question is, where are you holding now? We brought this Maisa in because of a halacha cheshbon. What was the halacha cheshbon? Everyone else is shot. You didn't go ahead and plant. Had you planted, maybe a nest would have happened. Maybe a nest would have happened. So the Gemara remains fair. Tani chada. Tani chada. Pamishaina ushniya zaira. So now he's planting the skatenish. Second time he plants the skatenish. In other words, the wind comes and get it. The locusts come and get it. Shlishis and He doesn't have to plant the third time. Betanya idach. Shlishis Sarai, he has to plant the third time. Revias and Izarav, not a fourth time. How do you explain the difference? Like Kasha, HaKarebi, Shimon ben Gamliel. HaKarebi, the Amar betrays him and they have a chazaka. Guys, we had this Gemara, remember? If you go ahead and give a kid a bris milah and he dies, and you give a second kid a bris milah and he dies, do you do the third one? Or the third one you chayish for the fourth? Rabbi said after two you don't. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said after three. So the one that says the same thing over here is applying the concept of chazaka, right? You do it, plant two times, you can get a third time, fourth time. That's the machlokes. Rabbi Dama betrays him. They have a chazaka. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, right? The ami betulsa's money have a chazaka. Therefore, you have to plant the fourth time. Amrei Shlakish loy shanu el shazara v'tzamcha. That the brisa. The question is going back on the brisa or the Mishnah. That he planted it grew. V'achal chagav. Let's say he planted it didn't grow. Amalu balakarka, the balakarka can say to him, Kol yimei zera zora lava azul. You can't say I planted and it did grow and that's it. You have to keep on going at it. Okay, we just saw a brisa, guys, where it was planted, it grew, and the locusts got it. Over here he planted and it didn't grow. During the planting season, can he make him plant and plant and plant? In other words, according to the Pashup Pshat, we just had a brisa that a machlokes guys 2 times and 3 times. That's already when it was planted and it got shot by the locusts. Over here, let's say he planted, right? And does he have to plant again? So lo yishanu ela shazara v'tzamcha. When does he have to plant again if it grew? V'achal chagav aval zarav le'tzamcha matziyam alei bal karka kol yimei zera zarav azul. You have to keep on planting. You have to keep on planting. If you plant once, guys, it doesn't grow. Plants twice, it doesn't grow. 3 times, it doesn't grow. As long as the planting season's on, you'd have to plant. That's in other words, it's going back on the brisa and saying the difference between when it grew and got locust or when it didn't grow at all. Bad emas, until when? So I love when the Gemara gives these reasonings. The Gemara ad emas, until when? Until when? Says the Gemara. At the asi arise midabra, when the sharecroppers come in from the field, the kaima kima arashayu, and kima is over their heads. Okay, what in the world is this talking about? Okay, zodiac signs, right? Each one parallels a certain month. Okay, each one parallels a certain month. Now, when one goes up, it's up for 2 hours, another one goes down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when Tle is going up in the horizon, the Basul is going down. When the Basul is going up, then it's that the way it rises, it works on and Rashi brings it's a long Rashi, and he brings that what? He brings that every 2 hours. And we could do a little bit of Rashi. Let's do a little bit of Rashi inside. We have time. Says Rashi, Atzmandechi osa arise midabra, v'nichnas the bias, bisman shein regulim l'kones, which is what? The hainu la'achatisha shos b'yom. After 9 hours in the day, karav l'soif asiris, closer to the 10th hour. Kaimu kima, Shehu zanav tle. It's the tail of the astronomical sign of the ram. Lahade rishayu beroish kolodam. The hainu beemtza rakia. It's going to be in the middle of the rakia. Shenir l'chol adam kiluhu al roishay. It appears that this star is over their heads. The hein yemei adar, and that's the key, guys. It's yemei adar. It's yemei adar. Shebegalgal kavua by shnayim asam mazalais. In the galgal kavua, we circle on an axis. So this is on the axis, and it goes around. V'zeu sidron. The sidron is tasht, sav, maka, gedad. Okay, guys, look at the Tufshin test. Look at the board now. That's tle shor tumim. Next, samach ayin beis. That's sarton aryeh besula. Mem ayin kuf. That's masnayim akrav keshes. And gimel dalid dalid. That's gedi dali dogim. Okay, that's the constellations. L'olam shisha olam b'shisha shoikim. 6 go up and 6 go down. Benisan l'olam betchilas alos hashacha tle maskal. So look at the chart, guys. Tle is always going to begin what? In the beginning of Nisan. Tle is going to begin in the beginning of Nisan. Okay. Umaznayim shoikin. Now, if this goes up, guys, it's always going to go 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maznayim. Okay, counting from here. After 12, counting 6. So Maznayim is going to go. Continues Rashi. Beis shois, shoika, ubeis shois hamazal shoya la alois la achash te shois ha'oila. It stays there for 2 hours. Gemar aliyasai. Shoika gemar shikua. Nimsa. Okay, if you go through the Rashi, which we're not going to do, but you get an idea that it seems to be that the mazel of tle has a tail. And if it begins in Nisan, the tail is still in Adar. Guys, if it begins in Nisan, the beginning, but the tail is still in Adar. So at that point in time, that's going to be the time that you can plant. That's going to be the time you can plant. Now, the Papa gave the sign rather than a month because of the lunar year. He gave a sign of which part of Adar to plant. That zodiac is based upon the solar year. He gave the sign based upon the lunar year. That he said, therefore, it's good. He didn't just, guys, he doesn't say Adar, right? He didn't say Adar. You know, but he gave a sign that no matter when, it's always going to be at that time. So basically, that's the time you can plant. Okay. I'm good with this. So, Amar Papa, where's the planting season? Until when? And that's Adar. Mesibe, you say it's Adar. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Mishum Rabbi Meir Omer, V'chein Hoyer Reb Shimon ben Menashe Omer, Kidvarov, he said like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Chatzi Tishrei Mar Cheshvan v'Chatzi Kislev Zera. That's the planting season. Chatzi Kislev Teves v'Chatzi Shvat, right? That's Chayrish. Chatzi Shvat Adar v'Chatzi Nisan. That's cold. Chatzi. These are by Noach gave him 6 seasons. Chatzi Nisan Iyar v'Chatzi Sivan Katzir. Chatzi Sivan Tamas v'Chatzi Av Kayetz. Chatzi Av Elo v'Chatzi Tishrei Choim. Rabbi Yehuda Moina be Tishrei. He would count the seasons from Tishrei. Rabbi Shimon Moina mi Cheshvan. He'd count what? The planting season what? From Cheshvan. Okay, so the question is, my Mekel Kulo, who gives the longest time? Who's the most Mekel? Okay, the longest planting season. Obviously, that's Rabbi Shimon. He gave to Mar Cheshvan. However, Kulei Ailokama, no one gave to Adar. So how do you explain that Adar is the planting season? There's Malay Kasha. Right? If the Mechoika went ahead for the early crops, right? And Kabli Minei Ba'aflei. So the early crops, right? We're going to see the second Rashi says, what's the early crops? Look at Rashi. Rashi tells us the early crops of Macheshvin, that is Chitin V'Shifun Hanisroyim B'Tchilas HaChayref. They're planted at the beginning of the winter. And Ba'alfei is So'erim V'Kitnius Hanisroyim Ba'adar. They're planted in Adar. So the Macheshvin is the early crops, and the So'erim and Kitnius are the later crops. Rabbi Yehuda said in the Mishnah, he says if you made a deal for money, then it doesn't make a difference. Whatever, Makas Medina, not Makas Medina, it doesn't make a difference. Okay. Who gave it? It was this person. The kibul ari the mizrei who tuma. He leased the field. He was going to go ahead and plant garlic. Agudin our malka saba, this river malka. So bezuze, and he took it. He was going to get in lieu of planting the garlic. He was going to get money. It's stuck in the malka sva, and it got slipped up. Rashi says that it was a stream, and the people on the top stopped it, and it wasn't coming down. So no one downstream was able to get a moist land to go ahead and plant. Asla made the Rabbi. He came in front of Rabbi Amalei, and he wanted to know, do I have to go ahead and deduct or not? Can I deduct or not? So Amalei Rabbi told him, Nahar Malka Sabalay over the Miskar. It's not normal that it gets blocked. Maka Medina, that is blocked now is mamish a universal problem. Zil Nachalei. Therefore, you go ahead and make a deduction. Emily Rava, so said Rabbanan to Rava, Amalei Rabbanan Rava, Anan Tanan, Rabbi Yehuda Omer. And he expected money for planting garlic. So Rabbi Yehuda said it doesn't make a difference whether it's makas b'din or not. So Amalahu, Rabbi said, less the chashlu the Rabbi Yehuda. No one's chash Rabbi Yehuda. No, Allah is not like him. Next Mishnah. Someone Kabbalah again. This is chakiris or arisas. It's chakiris. Basara kur chitim l'shana. You're going to produce 10 kor of chitin for the year, for laksa, and it did produce, but it was not good. It was gestrafen, right? You can't eat gestrafen. It was, yeah, it was. He can give him the lousy wheat. In other words, he's going to have 10 kor, but it's going to be 10 kor of not fine crop. He tell Yafais if the wheat was very very good. He can't tell the owner, I'll take that and give it from the shuk. You have to give from the field. Just like you gain when it's lousy, so too the owner gains when what? When it's good. Again, guys, he said I'm giving you an amount. 10 kor is an amount. He didn't say the quality. So the question is, can he go ahead and if it's does he have to give good quality? And the answer is no. It depends whatever the field produces. How gavit? It was his person. The kibul aralas pasta. He leased the field to go ahead and plant aspasta. Spasta was this animal fodder, and what he's going to get b'koyrei desar, and he was going to get paid in barley. He was going to get paid in barley. So of the aspasta, the land gave the aspasta. And then what he did? V'chorsha v'zara sara. He went ahead and planted soyrim. The lucky Hanisarim, the Sarim that he planted got hit. It was short. Sholchule Rav Chaviva Misura de Pras the Kame de. They said the Shalom to Ravina. Ki hai gavnamai. What's the case over here? What's the halacha? Ki lachsen noisin la mitoichi dami. Is this like the case of the Mishnah that you have to give him? You give him the lousy stuff. Aloi. Now I would say not, guys. Right? What does one have to do the other? He kept his deal. He planted a spasta. He can get this. The landowner doesn't have to pay him barley from his field; he can pay him barley from anywhere. So Amalei, so midami hasanle of the arash lichus the mara. There in the case what it was a lousy crop, he didn't do what the master wanted. Hacha of the arash lichus the mara. In other words, the land over there didn't do what it was supposed to do. But the land was supposed to produce a good crop; it didn't. Over here, the land was supposed to produce a pasta. Did it produce a pasta? It certainly did. And the barley, he didn't, and this guy didn't have to plant barley, right? So he can't pay. So in other words, he won't be able to pay him barley. Okay, guys, outside. I'm Mishnah. If he goes ahead and he made a deal, X amount, 10 kor of chitim. Chitim are lousy. Can he give him 10 kor of lousy chitim from the land? Absolutely, he could. Because that it didn't come out, that's not his fault. Over here, he was supposed to plant aspasta, and he did. What was he getting paid for? He's going to not get paid. He's going to get paid. He's going to pay the guy barley. He happened to plant barley in this land. That planting in the land has nothing to do with the deal. The deal was aspasta. Now you want to plant the land and pay him for the land? Mehekatesa. So therefore, you have to go to the shuk and buy what? Barley. You have to buy barley. Hogav, another case. Who got the kibul pardes mechabre? He released Rashi says pardes is a kerem. He went ahead. He released the kerem from his fence. Be'esa dani chamra, and from the kerem he's going to give 10 barrels of wine. And he planted the grapes and he made the wine. And takavu chamra, and the wine turned to vinegar. Now here's the question: can he give him the barrels of wine or not? Sabra Yehuda Lameimar Hainu Masnisan Laksa Nice Lamatoicha. Like that's our Mishnah. So therefore, he should be able to give him 10 barrels of vinegar. Amalei Ravashi, mi dummy. It's not comparable. Hasamli of the Arash Lechusa. In our Mishnah, the land did what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to produce good stuff. It did. Hacha of the Arash Lechusa. Over here, the land did do what it was supposed to do. It produced very, very fine grapes, right? And therefore, you can't give him the lousy wine. Therefore, it did its job, the grapes. Now that it turned vinegar, that you can't be yaitz with that. You have to give him different barrels of wine. Well, Moida Ravashi's Moida, the inve the chadom, if the grapes they became wormy, in other words, they were in the field and they still needed the field, they became wormy. And even when they were piled up, it was damaged. Nonetheless, there, since it still needs the ground, you will be able to pay the balabas with that stuff. You will be able to pay the balabas with that stuff.